The Apostle Paul was wonderfully interesting for his time. Paul, our most prolific church planner and evangelist, didn't fit in Jewish or Christian culture at all. We often think being Jewish is a religious distinction, but it's actually an ethnic one first and foremost. God changed Jacob's name to Israel, and his subsequent descendants, the Israelites, are known as the Jews. Paul was both ethnically and religiously Jewish. In fact, he was such a zealous Jew before he was a Christian that he was a little too intense for the average Jewish believer. They might not have believed in Jesus, but Paul literally wanted to see Christ's followers die for their beliefs. The radical leaders are the ones who loved him. However, Paul wasn't like them either. They weren't overly concerned with whether or not Jesus was telling the truth. For them, it was about power. Jesus threatened their power. So even when many of them became convinced that Jesus was telling the truth, they rejected him anyways. See, for them, it wasn't about finding the truth. For Paul, though, it was. And when he realized he was wrong, he turned full steam in the opposite direction. As a Christian, he didn't fit in much better. Christ recruited the first of his followers in Israel, so that first group of Christians was ethnically Jewish. The Jewish Christians were all about showing God's love, but if you were of a different race, they were far less enthusiastic. Paul's idea of sharing God's love equally with people of all races was undeniably what God wanted, but it was still extremely uncomfortable for the Israelites. The term Gentile means anyone who is not of the Jewish race. That's probably most of us in the room right now. Paul believed so passionately in God's love for and the equality of all races that he became known as the apostle to the Gentiles. So now you have Paul traveling to various countries, sharing Jesus with men and women of all ethnic and religious backgrounds. He ministered to them, served with them, and they became his very close friends. The diversity he experienced and embraced, along with his unyielding belief that Jesus was the God of everyone from every country, racial background, social status, or anything you can think of, made him quite probably the greatest evangelist who ever lived. No matter how much he differed from everyone around him, he brought the one thing that really mattered, that Jesus is the one and only way to God. That if Jesus could predict his death and resurrection and pull it off, then Jesus was the one to follow. That one commonality was enough that he could consider himself like-minded with all these people despite their massive differences. Jesus is such an equalizer that in Galatians 3:28, Paul says, "There's no longer Jew or Gentile, slave or free, male and female, for you are all one in Christ Jesus." In Jesus Christ, we just have one status, equal. So what does that mean for us today? Well, at CCV, there's a chance that in your group, you'll find yourself with people different from you. They'll differ in more than just age and gender. Their spiritual backgrounds and values may differ from yours. And if you're not accustomed to diversity, it might be surprising. You'll quickly find, though, that like it was for Paul, it's a blessing beyond measure. Because ultimately, what do we have in common? It's Jesus Christ. We're either exploring and figuring out what we believe about him, or we're actively seeking to be more like him. Whatever our pursuit may be, at CCV, it's all about Jesus Christ. At this church, we'll explore him from every angle. Our differences won't scare or threaten us. It'll round out our thinking and we'll benefit from different perspectives. The believers in Israel were uncomfortable around the other. Paul, however, wasn't scared by that. At CCV, we embrace Paul's example. Whoever you are, wherever you come from, we are a church and a community that you can call home.